Hello, it's Karen. That your day is going really nice. I wanted to come on here and say it wasn't Karen that called the cops. Last evening, I watched the Candice Owens documentary on the whole George Floyd incident that took place a number of years back. I think it was in 2022, so it was a few years back. And it was really important because it touches on entitlement. So I watched the documentary again last night, and they showed the footage of George Floyd and the doctor that did the autopsy. He was on fentanyl at the time. And I feel a sense of sadness, really, because, I've been volunteering for a number of years, and I've been exposed to the fentanyl crisis in Canada and Vancouver. It's saddening. There's over 100,000 people that have passed, and that crisis is somewhat, I'm sure it's still going on, but it's not as severe as it was. So I watched that documentary again last night, and it confirmed that it wasn't Karen that called cops on George Floyd. It was a store owner. He went into a store with counterfeit bills, and he tried to purchase something, and it was the store owner that called the cops, and it was a man. It wasn't Karen. So this whole Karen construct is just an urban myth that started, and I believe because since it started at that time, that was part of that Marxist terrorist group, as Candice Owens put, that was Black Lives Matter. And the thing is it's very sad because African Americans, a lot of them have proven themselves. They come from nothing and they become very wealthy because they worked really hard. And yeah, not everybody has the skills to get into entertainment, and not but one makes it in entertainment. So yeah, there are a lot of neighborhoods that are marginalized. And what I found most disturbing, I saw it again, that none of that money went into where it was to try to help these impoverished neighborhoods where there was a lot of looting and rioting. It actually, the money, she broke down where the money went to these organizations that helped further the globalist agenda that had formed. So I don't have any comments about that. I think sometimes people do very wrongful things in order to get ahead in this world when they've been oppressed. So they either lie, cheat, or steal, or they harm others. And that's their prerogative to do, but at some point, they may not be affected at all. And another point is sometimes karma comes and bites them in the ass. So, really, and again, I'm not in the United States, but we do have different problems here. Our biggest thing that we've dealt with and is going to be an ongoing process is people of First Nations in Canada. So, and that is a very lengthy book within itself. So I've said on these truth and reconciliation talks, and I've done my part. And I did the research from the perspective of the First Nations people as well. And I was honored by these people because they really took it into with deep sincerity as what I had to say for my family and what the crown at the time had done. It was the government had done to people. So the government was funding a lot of projects to be able to have truth and reconciliation with First Nations and with the settlers on this land and their ancestors, their what do you call their generations, their offspring. So really, I feel for America, but that is a major problem. And as Candace Owens had stressed, it is the Black people that need to be able to work out these problems more so, those societal problems. And yeah, using these things like saying someone's an entitled person, they don't get it, or they don't understand the history. I grew up. I when I was in even in art college, I had to study. I read Beloved. Also, and we talked about Martin Luther King's speech as to what it meant. So I was educated on all of this. And also, still, it's like later. So, again, where is it coming from? So, I think it was just some sort of false flag. I call it a false flag. It was a diversion. A diversion's a better word to be able, because people were angry when all these, everything from the mandates that were imposed on humanity, and for whatever reasons any of that took out, and I'm not talking about that, and also a lot of what the global elites have done to humanity and their depopulation plans. I don't know if their depopulation plans are curbed. I only follow so much of that because I find a lot of the stuff, it is political, it's geopolitical, it is very stressful. I'm not in the position to be able to deal with that, but I am in the position to defend my name. My first name is Karen, and I'm proud of my first name. Sometimes I use a different name. I use Karen C. I use Karina as well too. But more so, I've stuck with, especially my artwork, my visual artwork. That is my heritage. That is my identity. And I'm not giving up my identity because some, greedy groups think they're going to get social justice by being terrorists and looting and causing protests and everything. Yeah, some people are empathetic to their causes, but when riots are caused, and this is social engineering, and who funded this, who was behind all this, and yeah, there are people that talk about George Soros, and there's a number of these Marxist groups. I don't think they're Leninists, they're more Marxist groups, and they're paid protesters to be able to cause problems in peaceful communities and economic disruption. And what about the losses of the people, of their businesses when they get robbed and looted? There isn't an entitlement to be able to steal. Stealing has always been wrong. It's in the 10 Commandments. And if you don't want to follow the 10 Commandments, you can be agnostic or an atheist of some kind. You don't even believe in God. And you think social justice is by causing violence and robbing people, then you're the one who's in the wrong. So I'm so thankful that Candice Owens did that documentary, and a lot of people were against her. They said very hateful things because she was exposing the truth of what was going on with all this stuff. And yeah, what a way to get a house. So the thing is that, yeah, that was completely wrong to do that. And they put my first name in the mix to be able to use that as a diversion to say, oh, you entitled white person. And it's still, that kind of tactic just doesn't go over anymore. And like, I'm in a multicultural society and I talk to people all the time. I talked to my driver yesterday and he fully agreed. Like, he said, that's extortion. I didn't even say it and he said it. So the thing is yeah, that's really bad when people do that. That's going to be a very despicable low act. And some people are desperate. There's a lot of people on the streets. There's a lot of homeless people now. So when neighborhoods are socially engineered by this process, and who's responsible? A lot of the billionaires are responsible. And they're not philanthropists. They set up these organizations to come across as being philanthropists, but really, like, this is what Candace Owens did in this situation is where's the money? And she did a good investigative report to be able to track down that money. And yeah, it's just like a lot of money disappeared when it came to global contracts. 9/11 will never be solved. So I'm not here to get into all that stuff. But the thing is that my name was used, my first name, as a derogatory measure, as a diversion to be for the people who are really angry and they had to direct their anger somewhere. And so they created this urban myth, or this myth of this Karen, this entitled character, and you see it everywhere, and it made it to mainstream media, and it's in that media that I happen to found. I saw that video a number of years ago, and they re-released it. So that's just hate propaganda, and that's hate towards me. That's hate towards my name. And I suffer from that. I suffer those repercussions, and I haven't done anything to be able to deserve that kind of treatment. So, and yeah, what have I done for America? I'm not American. I visited America. I actually talked to a lot of people when I visited America, and I experienced racism from the people who were racist in America. Like, how do you have the nerve to talk to these people? I come from a different country where most people, they're immigrants, and we're respectful and we're civil towards one another. So America is a whole different ballgame. I honestly, at one point, I thought it'd be really great to live there. And then I saw the realities of a lot of their problems. And, I don't like politics, and I don't want to get into foreign policy or anything like that. I'm not a political commentator by any stretch. My goodness. So the thing is I'm an artist, and I get to have a voice too as a person. So I just wanted to talk about this in a little bit more detail. So yeah, Karen didn't call the cops. That's really what it came down to, is that's when all this stuff started, and it was just an urban myth. Yeah. And I feel compassion for the police officer that used excess force, and he's suffering because of that. 25 years or maybe a lifetime in prison. So this whole thing, and what has gotten resolved, that a few African Americans that got greedy with this bought themselves some mansions. They actually bought an estate in Toronto, Canada, worth over $1 million. So, I like to see people empowered, but I also like to see social justice when it's fair, not when it's theft of people. So, yeah, all of this whole thing, it's just sickening. So, not what I wanted to get into today. So, today, Yeah, one of my videos was it needed to go back for some re-editing, so I spent a good part of the day doing that because I'm self trained from one of the production music production studios that I worked in. I learned some skills, and yeah, it gets expensive. So to be able to put out anything professional quality, so I'm trying to make it as professional as possible, and I'm keeping busy because I know people, they really love my voice, my singing voice, and my music, and I'm still putting out there. Oh yeah, before all this sort of social engineering happened, when these incidents became mass, I was working with a number of African artists, or African American, African Canadian artists, um, doing production work. And the thing is, or collaborations, and because they wanted Black people only, I actually was excluded from a lot of funding because I'm not African, or African descent, or African Canadian. So I just found that whole thing, and I just had to keep silent about it, because I knew where the money was going, but I couldn't speak out about it because the whole Karen thing. So thank you so kindly, Candice Owens, for revealing so much of that truth about that in that time. I feel more at peace now that she brought that to justice, because I suffered economically, and why should I take the heat for years and years of history and wrongdoing? No, no, no. And I don't feel guilty whatsoever, because I know what my ancestors did. I researched that heavily a good part of my life, and I researched it from different perspectives. And I had very limited relatives in the United States. There is a reservation, but this is First Nations. It's not African. The African slaves that were brought over, it's a whole different section of humanities. So I'm glad that I used my skills to be able to sit and talk one on one with a lot of people from our community, and to be able to make a difference. And we also gathered, it was people of the church community that gathered a lot of money and donated it to these people, because we knew that they were in need. There are a lot of people still in need, and we knew how sincere they were, and they'd use it towards a good purpose, not to buy multi-million-dollar research, but to actually help people in communities that are marginalized and people that are in real need. So that's really what it comes down to. So sometimes, yeah, you gotta get involved to have a direct impact, rather than these they're scams that they pull on people, and especially the elderly, when they worked their whole lives. And there's so many scammers now. It's just so sad, really. And how society has come due to these globalists, and they're the entitled people, but they're also very well protected. So that was in my mind. I know, absolutely, I knew from the very start that that was a construct used as a diversion to be able to harm me. And yeah, so I thought, I love my country. My country is with the First Nations, and also with immigrants that have escaped from other countries. They immigrated to be able to live a free life, and not have to deal with a lot of the harmful politics that a lot of other countries do have. So yeah, I'm a proud Canadian. I'll always be that way. I think, like, yeah, I'm still boycotting the tariffs. I buy Canadian. I'm a proud Canadian, and I used to enjoy visiting the United States, and it could have turned into a really beautiful opportunity. I might have been able to be a philanthropist myself and make a difference in this world, but it didn't turn out that way. So it's just like, let's keep Karen down. Let's just keep pushing her down, 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 and harming her. And no more. No more. So anyway, you have a beautiful day. And I'm just getting back to my local community work and doing my thing. I feel very blessed. Okay, thanks. Bye for now.